Kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another best of here in Big Hairy News. Today we're looking at July 2024. The best of for 2024 is what we've got coming up today. Hope you're all very, very well. Hope you're having a good break so far. If you're back at work, I hope work is slow. I used to love working these holiday periods. When I worked in radio, they were always the best times to work because as sort of a junior, which is what I was, you got given the responsibility of taking over for the seniors' jobs, so doing the breakfast show and that sort of thing. And then the people who were the part-timers got to come and do what the juniors' jobs were. And I worked for a couple of radio stations, and not only did they give you different shifts and pay you for public holidays and that, but I had one boss once, when I worked for Maori FM Auckland, might as well give them credit where credit's due, who got lunch for us every day as well, because they were thankful that there were people covering over the Christmas New Year period. How cool would that be? Hey, today we have got 4 highlights for you. A Piers Morgan highlight, and this is on YouTube, one of the clips that did best for us for the whole year. Come here, girl. Sorry. No, Liz just decided to pop in. G'day, mate. Go lie on your mat. Go lie on your mat. Good girl. It was probably our biggest video all year. Oi, on your mat. That's not your mat. Thank you. One of our biggest videos on YouTube all year when Brian Tyler Cohen turned up to Piers Morgan, and it felt like maybe Piers Morgan shouldn't have asked him on. We're going to play a clip for that tonight. Also, Mihingarangi Forbes was having a chat with Tama Potaka. And the thing about Tama is, I think, or most people think, I think as well, that he probably isn't on board with a lot of the things this national government is doing. It feels like perhaps his cultural aspect of the world as a Maori doesn't sit well with perhaps the political direction of these things. So the way we're setting up that clip is that Tama Potaka looks and feels very uncomfortable in the conversation, like he's not really on board. A really interesting chat today with retired FBI Special Agent Ken Gray. We spoke to Ken after the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, and so yeah, that was a cool chat. And also maybe where we'll stay is Chloe Swarbrick serving up a bowl of humiliation pie to David Seymour. I think it was on breakfast. It was on one of the breakfast shows where the 3 was still going then. So let's kick off with that one. Be safe, be well. Hope you're having a good break. If you're having a break, I hope if you're working not too hard. But here's Chloe Swarbrick nutting David Seymour on housing and landlords. This morning on the AM show, Chloe Swarbrick and David Seymour had some chats about housing. Let's have a look at that conversation.
We're looking at about 6.5% year on year, so that's still up above CPI at 4%.
Talking rent.
But there is a slight cooling there, and supply is increasing. We're seeing demand coming down, so it's moving in the right direction, don't you think, Chloe?
Depending on how you look at those variables that are driving precisely that. So you were talking before on the show with Gavin from Trade Me about particularly migration numbers. We also know that there's a ton of New Zealanders, particularly young New Zealanders, who are leaving this country, which is devastating. A lot of them are doing so on the premise not only, of course, of pent-up demand around COVID-19, but of the fact that they believe that they have better opportunities offshore and that there might potentially be lower costs of living. We can achieve better infrastructure investment. We can have a thriving nightlife. We can have communities that people want to invest in here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, if we get the policy settings right. But actually, I would call on David here because he made some compelling points when it comes to the evidence and database that we need to make.
See what this is? This is what Sunita did. See how she's saying nice things about David? It's the same sort of. I'm just saying.
Informed decisions around school attendance, for example. We don't currently have next to any real good, meaningful data around the distribution of ownership of rental properties in this country. And in fact, both Labor and National have kind of had a go at each other for not having these figures, yet not being interested in actually resolving the problem in the first place. So if we were to do that, then we would have far greater insights into also the likes of wealth distribution and inequality in this country. And ultimately, we'd be able to make better public policy decisions.
Do you think that is helpful? Do you think it, David, do you think it would be helpful to know?
No, I mean, this is what we hear, week after week from Chloe, that your problems are caused by someone else's success, and if only we could go after those people or blame someone else for doing well, then we could solve the problem. The truth is that there are 2 things that need to happen. Number 1, make it easier to build a house. The easier you make it to build a house, the more there will be, the more choices tenants will have. Number 2, make it easier to be a landlord. The easier it is to own a house and rent it out to another person, the more choice there will be, the more pressure there will be on prices. The basic facts are that in the last 2 years of the previous government, rents went up $200. And they're still going up. We've still got...
Do you notice those still, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt it, we'll ever keep going. Do you know that no one ever still goes, why? Rent's going up by $200 a week. Sounds bad, is bad. Why? Why do they go up by $200 a week? That's what I'd want to know. Because then you can figure out, like via some evidence, how to address that issue of why they went up. No one ever asks it. No one ever goes, why?
Really bad momentum on inflation right across the economy. I accept all that. But what is our government doing about it? Well, number one,
making it easier to
management.
kick people out of their houses with no-cause evictions.
And you know what one of the effects of that is? If it's easier to kick out a bad tenant...
This is beautiful. This is literal, you know, people who are anti-science? This is literal anti-evidence. David Seymour shows his whole ass here by saying how much he doesn't believe in evidence.
And you know what one of the effects of that is? If it's easier to kick out a bad tenant, then a landlord...
increase rents.
Yes,
that's what the evidence bears out.
Then a landlord is more likely to take a chance on someone that maybe doesn't have good references, that maybe has a bad history.
There is no evidence for that whatsoever.
You always talk about evidence, Chloe, but just a second.
It kind of matters if you make good public policy.
Well, yeah, but you often don't have any.
You constantly talk about evidence. Chloe, when you talk about evidence, it ruins the points I'm trying to make.
There is no evidence for that whatsoever.
You always talk about evidence, Chloe, but just a second.
It kind of matters, David, to make good public policy.
Well, yeah, but you often...
Yes, evidence matters to make good public policy, indeed. There's another clip to play, Chewie, but jump on that one first, sir.
Vibes.
Yeah.
I would also vote for Chloe's eyebrows for literally any position of authority anywhere in the world.
I would love to play poker with Chloe Swarbrick because her eyebrows would give her away every single time. Just a thought. Clip two.
Yep.
They're going on to talk about the 3 key solutions.
3 key solutions.
That's what I said.
Noting that no one solution is going to fix absolutely everything, but there are 3 key things that the Greens have been campaigning for a really long time to fix the housing market. One is a register for property managers and landlords. We do not have a meaningful backstop to understand who owns these properties, and therefore ultimately how we ensure that we raise the bar of responsibility in order to actually meet the likes of the Residential Tenancies Act healthy home standards. The second is turning those healthy home standards into a rental warrant of fitness, which we've discussed time and again on this show. And the third is rent controls. Bear with me on this because we currently have within the Residential Tenancies Act forms of rent controls around, for example, the inability to raise rents more than once every 12 months.
When the host says, "What do you think of that, David?" What do you think he's going to say? "Oh yeah, a great idea." I'm hopeful that's what he says.
Never worked.
No, I think he's going to support it. That's what I think. I think he'll be for it.
Oh, okay. However, what the evidence shows is that if we move to a no-cause eviction model, then landlords can kick out their tenants in order to increase rents.
I just want to go back to that. I just want to go. Hang on, sorry. I just want to go back to the owners and. Aren't you in saying that that's, you know...
I just want to clarify something because I think it's really important. I'm sure most people have got it, but for the one person watching that doesn't, what Chloe's saying is if there's no fault evictions and you want to put the rent up but you can't legally, you just boot the people out, you put the rent up, you bring people in. So that's why the evidence, as Chloe cites, shows that no fault eviction, or no cause eviction, I think it is, enables rents to go up more quickly. Because the landlord will go, "Oh shit, we've got to replace that roof. Oh shit, I need $50 more a week. Okay, you guys are gone. See ya." And then add 50 on and re-advertise the place.
And look, let's be clear, that happens now, but landlords have to come up with a reason.
Sure.
Like, you can evict anyone on a shorter term if they're going to do major renovations or if they're going to live in it or that sort of thing. And then, oops, oh, okay, no, I don't need to do the renovations. It was all a mistake. I was mistaken. New tenants, rent's gone up $100.
Yeah.
If they don't even have to do that fig leaf anymore, then, yeah. How often? Yeah, I don't like your face. You asked me to fix too many things. Fuck off. We'll get someone else in.
We'll get someone else.
That no, and if you're a tenant and you know you can get booted for anything, are you going to stick up for your rights?
Yeah. All right. No. This has got lessons. About 60 seconds to go.
I just want to go. Hang on. Sorry. I just want to go back to the owners and. aren't you in saying that that's, you know, owning a property is kind of inherently makes you a bad person in
Not at
some
all.
way, you know,
No.
or we want to make sure that, you know, there's a specific type of person that's not owning a whole lot of property?
No, what we want to do is have an informed public debate. Right now, we know that there's approximately 120,000 landlords. We know that there's approximately 1.5 million renters in this country, but we don't have meaningful understanding of who owns what, and therefore, if there are bad actors, how we can raise the bar. No, it's ultimately about creating a public policy environment.
It's a witch hunt. And I'm sorry, but this is the kind of populism that I'm getting tired of. If only we could find some
evidence about who owns what in this country.
Oh, David's getting
Populist
tired of
says
it.
what?
Oh, David.
Surely that is an important thing.
No, because what's important is that we make it easier to build a house, make it easier to be a landlord. And if you want to talk about evidence, Chloe, you guys had 6 years. You beat up on landlords, you put more restrictions on, you put more taxes on. Rents went up $200 in 2 years. That's the evidence, Chloe. Now we're making it easier to build a house, make it easier to be a landlord so people have choice and prices can come down.
There you go. That's the end of the 2 clips. Chewie, I mean, again, you know, no pushback for why did it go up by $200 a week. Lots of solutions from Chloe. That seems to be media, New Zealand media 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a dreadful interview. Well, once again, whether you agree with Chloe or not, she stated what she thought was something that could change it. She stated the reasons for it really clearly. You know, look, I'm not even on board with everything. I'd like to see more about rent controls to really understand how that would work. But when it comes to licensing property managers and that sort of thing, absolutely. Remember, most property managers are frustrated real estate agents. There are just absolute horror stories from rental agencies and rental property managers, and they're just too common and they're just too similar to look at and not go, this is a problem. So yes, I think that should be solved. I also agree with the rental warrant of fitness, because as much as the healthy home standard moved the needle a little bit, I don't think it moved it enough to provide people with warm homes that keep them healthy.
Yep.
You know, we've got a lot of old homes and most of them are rentals. You know, the benefits to the entire country are very, very clear. The benefits to the owner's property portfolio may be less clear, which is where Seymour's coming. And yeah, I'd like to know more about rent controls.
Yeah,
before I really weigh in on that. I also love David Seymour talking about populism. Because there were two politicians on that couch, and one of them was definitely a populist. And I don't think it's who David Seymour thought it was.
What is that? I'm rubber and you are glue. What you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
That's projection. It's always projection. Every accusation is an admission. All of those sort of things. But yeah, do we really think that? You know, I'll give it to him. Building more houses is part of the problem. Well, it was part of the solution to the problem. But what David's saying is make it easier. That means less regulation. Now, we've tried this before, and we ended up with decades of fixing leaky houses. Or we'll end up with some shoddy short-term builds just to get some money moving through. What we need to do is move away from property ownership and rentals being the only way to use your investment dollars in this country. If people aren't hoarding houses, then more people can own houses, and then we wouldn't need as many rentals. But yes, he won't get out of his way to see that.
I was just looking for the graph that shows the houses built under Labour, 120,000.
Oh,
and
yes.
then under National so far, 0. It's just about houses being built.
And look, talking about rents going up $200, you know, what David's trying to draw there is a parallel straight to the healthy home standard, straight to the bright line test, all of those sort of things affecting rentals. And it wasn't that at all.
Welcome back, team. Hope you're enjoying the best of. Reminder, we're back here again live from Monday of next week. Looking forward to getting back to it. Really important heads up about the store at the moment. A couple of things to know. It is open, bhnshop.nz, bhnshop.nz. It is open, but what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to take down perhaps the Chewies, the Nikki No Boats and the BHNs in the lead up to Waitangi Day for a couple of reasons. One is I run the store. I pretty much, either I or one of my family members pretty much packs up everything. We print all the shirts, we fold them, we take them to the post shop, and I'm going away for 2 weeks on honeymoon. So I will be out of here by about the 25th of January. We're talking about. Now that means I can't really leave the store open for others to monitor because they don't have the access. So what it means is the buffer in particular, I'm thinking that people are going to want for Waitangi Day. And if you do want a buffer, there are limited numbers there. As you can see, the green, is that green? No, that's rust. There are some green 3XLs left, but the rust 3XLs have all gone. There's the rust one there, of course, which I think is my favorite. Although I might make myself a green one. I haven't got one yet. Which means basically kind of after the 25th of January, you may not be able to get buffer gear. And I'm guessing buffer gear for Waitangi Day could be quite important for some people, as about the idea that we're talking about what it is. Same to be said for the hoodies. You can see, look, pinks have all gone. Maroons, I think there might only be one of, and it's in 3XL. There are greens though, or maybe there's only green larges as well. So the numbers are limited and the store's likely coming down once I go on honeymoon because we won't be able to service the store. So what I'm saying is you need to get in now. You need to get in now and get your gear if you want. The other items are much of the same. Everything's still available as I record this, but at some stage before the 25th, we'll be taking some of these down and putting them back up again once I get back from honeymoon, but that'll be about it. So long-winded, I'm sorry. And it's a terrible way to do a clip that's going to play 4 times this week or 5 times this week because you'll remember it clearly. But bhnshop.nz, if you want to get some merch, and even though we're in pre-record mode, I'm still in Dunedin, we're still here, and we will still send out gear. So if you want it, especially the buffer gear for Waitangi Day, then order it today. bhnshop.nz. We want to welcome to the show Ken Gray. Ken Gray is a former special agent in the FBI, currently a distinguished lecturer in the University of New Haven Department of Criminal Justice. Ken also teaches courses in Homeland Security. Ken, probably the most qualified person in the world to talk to this topic. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Maybe you could just explain to us, first of all, we are going to have a look at the situation with Trump. We're going to have a look at the footage. We're going to get your expertise on that. But what was your role in the FBI? Like, what would you do? Do they have ranks in the FBI? Where did you get? What was your? What does a special agent do in particular?
So, special agents do investigations, collect up evidence for cases, and other tasks as required by law. I spent my time primarily focused in on counterterrorism matters, right. But I also worked national security matters. Okay. I was a crisis manager for our division, and for 9 years I was a member of the New Haven SWAT team.
Wow. Okay. I've been hearing some conversations. In fact, I looked at a conversation this morning before we came on with a current Republican politician who used to be a sniper. And it was interesting to hear his take on this whole incident with, I don't want to downplay this assassination attempt on Donald Trump, rather than trying to downplay it whatsoever. If it's okay with you, I think what we'll do is actually have a look at the minute 45 or so of the footage that happened around Donald Trump, and then maybe just get your take on what you see before we go into what happens from here. So this is the footage from yesterday. This is the footage of Donald Trump. It's in portrait because it's on my Twitter feed, but we get everything, we see everything. And actually what I find more important, Ken, on some level, is we hear everything. We hear the conversation with the Secret Service agents after they've come in. And that's quite an interesting part of this as well. So there's about 10, 15 seconds before the attempt happens, and we'll just have a look at the footage together. Here we go.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Moving his hair. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. You ready? Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move? Shooter's down. We're good to move. We're clear. We're clear. Let's move. We're clear. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold that in your head. It's bloody. So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. Watch out. Wait.
And then he makes his way back to the truck. Those images, the images of the fist pumps, which he's still doing now, and there's been some unbelievable photos that people managed to catch just through this kind of 30-second moment. They obviously will be photos that go down in the historical record as being an unprecedented incident to a former president and a current runner for president again. When you just see the incident, you've seen it, obviously with your experience and background, what do you see?
So Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the president, the vice president, and in these cases, the candidates for the next election for president. And I see Secret Service executing their job. That is that the president was busy giving his speech. At one point, he turns his head slightly, and when he turns his head slightly, you see him grab his ear, and then he drops to the ground himself. And then Secret Service agents pile on top of him, using their bodies as a shield to protect the president. Then when they get him up, they form a shield around his body and then proceed to move him off the rally stage there and into a suburban to leave the event and to go on to a safe area and to the hospital to have him evaluated at that point. While they had him on the ground, they were checking him to see whether or not there was additional injuries, and that continued on once they got him into the suburban. But in addition to the Secret Service agents you saw jump on top of the former president to use their bodies as shields, you also saw members of the CAT team, which is the counter assault team, the agents that were wearing the green jumpsuits and having the helmets and having the long guns. Their job is to apply suppression fire if there was a continued attack on the former president, and move towards the threat to provide a safe zone for them to get the former president out of the area.
Okay.
Additionally, there were counter snipers that were above the venue that once the shot was fired, they located the sniper and they provided a counterfire to that, which neutralized the threat, killed the shooter in this case. And so there were several different components going on here by Secret Service. I thought that the time that was spent on the rally stage there, it should have been somewhat briefer.
Right.
The fact that the former president giving the fist bumps the way that he did, while it may be very colorful and may be great as far as footage goes for his campaign, I think that had there been another shooter there, that might have been an opportunity for that shooter to deliver fire on President Trump. And so I think they spent a little bit too much time on the stage. and they should have gotten him off the stage as quickly as possible, and screw the shoes that he said, wait, get my shoes.
Yeah.
He should have been taken off the stage right away and gotten to that Suburban and gotten out of there. That being said, I was not there. I'm not a Secret Service agent. I'm a former FBI agent, and I'm not trained the way that they are trained. So maybe there was reasons why they were taking their time to get him off the stage that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point you just made. I never thought about that, if there was a second shooter, because it's unquestionable. And look, you know, where we sit in politics, Ken, in this show, is we sit on the left of politics, but we play a fair game. Like, we call balls and strikes, as you'd say in America. And those photographs of him pumping his fist will be, you know, on every billboard and every, you know, going up to the election. So I was thinking about what you would have thought about that happening and how much control the Secret Service has. Like, there was the conversation around January the 6th where he wanted to go to, they call the vehicle the Beast or something that he travels in, to go down to the Capitol with them, and the Secret Service agents went, "You're not going." Like, they had autonomy to say, not happening. In that instance, it looked like it was a bit of both. They had autonomy to get him off stage, but he was able to, and when I say this, it's not I'm not saying this like to, well, am I saying this to criticize him? I mean, it was very clever what he did from a marketing point of view, the pump fist and all that sort of thing. But they didn't quite have the autonomy to get him off stage no matter what, as you're saying. And I'd never thought, gosh, what if there was a second shooter? So that's a very interesting thing you said. And just to show people as well, this is a photo that's come out in the last 24 hours. It's a bit hard to see if you're on a smaller screen, but right here there is like a trailing bullet photo. So that was as close as it was to former President Trump, to actually no longer having former President Trump.
Had this bullet been an inch to the right or 2 inches to the right,
yeah,
we would be having a different conversation right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we obviously here in New Zealand have a very different culture, especially around guns, than in America. Now, it's a horrible thing to say, but we sometimes joke when there is a mass shooting in America, and we'll say, oh, it must be Tuesday because there was another mass shooting, because they seem to happen. Well, I think according to maybe even the FBI, there's a number that have to die in a shooting to be a mass shooting, and they do happen every day. Like, we only ever hear about the Columbine high schools and that thing on this side of the world, but there seems to be, you know, significant shootings every single day. So whilst this is shocking, and it's shocking to see from this point of view, it also doesn't seem out of the bag for that American gun culture. I mean, if it wasn't the president, if it was person X. Do you want to speak to that?
I think that the shocking part of this is that Secret Service has a lot of security going on at this venue.
Yeah.
That inside the secure area, nobody had a weapon on them because of the efforts that Secret Service took to they had magnetometers there, they patted down people, and no one brought a weapon into that was not law enforcement or Secret Service.
Yeah.
Outside the secure area, it was not as secure. And that's why this shooter was able to get to the position that he was able to get to and get the shot off. And so the shocking part of this is that despite all the efforts of Secret Service to make this into a secure venue, that a shooter was able to get into a position, an elevated position like this, and to get rounds off before they were taken out.
Yeah, there was a very interesting interview on the BBC quite soon after the event happened. I'm sure you've seen it, the world has seen it, about a gentleman saying that they saw someone crawling up towards the building, and they were all pointing to him to tell the police, and that the allegation, I guess, without actually knowing 100%, is that was the shooter, and they seem to be a little bit lackadaisical. The first question I asked you was, what do you see? I guess the way to ask this question in that same sort of frame is, what don't you see? Like, do you have any critiques of what? I mean, we're a long way away, even yourself, and it's only 24 hours later. But what have you read or heard where you think, oh, I didn't see X, which they should have done?
So the FBI is engaged in doing an investigation and gathering up all the information about this, and they will be producing a report.
Right.
I don't have the benefit of the information that they are getting at this point, and so I would be hesitant to try to judge the Secret Service's performance in this particular case. I mean, it's their responsibility. A shooter was able to get off rounds towards President Trump. So there is, by de facto, a failure in security. But
Yeah.
whether this failure in security is due to some fault in the security plan, or if this is due to some other issue, I can't say. And I think that that's what the investigation will show. What I would say is that security, it does not start on the day of the rally. Security for an event like this starts days before, weeks before, when there is an advance team that shows up and does a site survey and makes determinations of what areas need to be protected, what areas could be a potential risk. And I would be interested to see in the investigation what this site survey by the advance team had to say about the buildings in the area within the middle ground of the perimeter. The security, you think of it as concentric circles. The inner security is the secure zone where the rally was taking place. The next zone out is the middle zone, which had a couple of buildings in it. And then the far zone was at some distance. The counter snipers were there to handle the distant perimeter. The middle zone was supposed to be being handled by patrols by local and state police there, I believe. And the inner zone was being done by the fact that all the members were going through magnetometers and Secret Service was present there. And so the fact that the shooter was able to get up on top of this building, crawl to a position, and get off these shots before he was neutralized means that there was a failure in the security plan.
Yeah. Speaking of the shooter, 20-year-old isolated male, the political games have already started around why he did this. But what we do know is he donated to a Democratic cause when he was 17, and he is a registered Republican and a member of they're being described as a far-right Second Amendment group called Demolition Ranch. I guess with your former FBI hat on, when you get a suspect, which is now, I guess, confirmed because he's there and they shot him, what do you do next to find out more about who he is and why he did this?
So the FBI's investigation will concentrate in on his home, his friends, his family, his colleagues, and his social media. He has a computer there at his home, presumably. They're going to be mirroring that computer and examining it forensically to determine whether or not he had any postings that would lead one to believe he was planning to carry this out. They will be obtaining all of his posts on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or Telegram or wherever he might have been doing postings at. That information will be taken and analyzed to try to give us an idea about what this guy was all about and what motivated him. Really, this case is not going to go to court. He's dead.
Yeah.
And so the investigation is trying to determine what happened, what went wrong, and what steps can be taken in future such cases.
You're working at the University of New Haven. That means you're surrounded by 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. And it's Sunday, your time, but you'll be getting back there tomorrow morning, I'm assuming, for work and for school. What do you think the generation who this shooter comes from will be saying tomorrow? In the old days, we used to say at work, around the water cooler, Ken. I don't know what they say today at university, but sitting around the quad, what are they going to be talking about?
So I'm sure that this will be the foremost topic of conversation about what actually happened here. There's a lot of conversation going on social media at this point, and so I'm sure that it will play out on campus as well as on social media. As far as what the thoughts are. The problem is that right at this point, very little information has been released to the public. And so any opinions that are expressed are based upon limited data. I think that there was a press conference last night. I expect to see another press conference sometime today to put out additional information. We are learning that the gun was purchased by the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks's father. We are learning that there was explosive devices inside his car as well, and that there was also explosive material inside his residence. And so there's a lot more information to come in this. But we need to hear data to be able to form real opinions about what transpired here. This is not something that is going to be determined within hours or days. This is going to take weeks or maybe even months before we end up getting a final report. As I said, this is not going to play out in court. This is going to play out with a final report that is issued by the FBI on this particular incident. What is important to come out of this is security posture changes by the Secret Service for future such events to stop this from happening again. That happens after any type of similar type of shooting. There's always changes to the security postures.
My last question, Ken, is more of an opinion-based question. The Republican convention is starting this week. Obviously, the incident that happened yesterday has oodles of political consequences around this. Do you have any thoughts as to what this will mean politically for America, good or bad? Any opinions around that?
So I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you how this will play out. I know that the RNC starts tomorrow, that the security for the RNC, this is what's called a National Special Security event, an NSSE. It took a long time to put together the security plans for this event, and it's an indoor event as opposed to an outdoor rally. And so the security for this will be very tight. However, I'm sure that the RNC attendees will be energized because of this event. And President Trump showing his readiness by those fist bumps and that he was not going to be stopped, not going to be deterred by this event. I am sure that that will play out over the course of the RNC.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what happens from here. Former special agent at the FBI and also distinguished lecturer at the University of New Haven, that is Ken Gray. Ken, thanks so much for giving us some time on the other side of the world to talk about this most shocking incident.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome back, whānau. Looking forward to catching up with you on Monday as we go back to being live. Just a huge thanks to our patrons, who some of you have been a part of us since 2022. 2023, crumbs, it's a couple of years now. Really appreciate you guys. The patrons are the people. Yes, we've got the store open and stuff, but the patrons are the people who help us do this thing on a monthly basis when we're doing pre-records like we are right now. And obviously the super chats are down, and even though the store is open, it's obviously down because we're not here every night saying, hey, look at the store, hey, look at this. It's the patrons that help us get through this. So basically the patrons literally enable us to have some time off, which we desperately need. And also pay for a whole bunch of other things as well. I'm going to do some work up in Waitangi. Patrons are some of the people helping to pay and cover some of that work whilst I'm up there for Waitangi Day. If you like what we do, if you're a fan of it and you want to do something more than just share our content, then what you can do is head to patreon.com/Big Hearing News, as it says at the bottom of the screen, and just do what you can do. I mean, like, the most important thing is that we have your eyeballs and your earballs. Is that the thing? But other than that, you know, telling people about us, lots of ways you can be advocates. If one of those ways is also a small financial contribution per month, then patreon.com/Big Hearing News. If it's not going to jump up and down on you, enjoy the content, help support us some other way by sharing it around and telling people about us, being our advocates, buying some stickers, sticking them by Parliament, which I've been getting pictures from you guys, sticking those Nicky No Boats ones up by Parliaments. And just keeping on. So patreon.com/Big Hearing News if you want to be a part of that. Thank you for all those who are supporting us, and let's get back to the best ofs. Tama Potaka was on Mata with Mihingarangi Forbes, and there is a lot about this that we're not showing you. You can see it's a 30 minute, 26 minute interview. You should go and check it out. It's on YouTube. YouTube is this new platform that TVNZ doesn't know about. It shows videos, Chewie. It's like a hub for various videos, like a hub for news and other things as well. Like a
That's
news
crazy.
hub.
That's never going to take on.
Yeah, no. We're not playing the bit about fast tracking. If you want to know yourselves, fast tracking is about 4 minutes and 19 to 6 minutes and 50 in this clip. And we could have played it, but we would have, we have to have some restrictions due to time. But what I want to say is what Tama was constantly talking about. He was constantly going on about expectations. When fast tracking's happened in the past, and Mihingarangi actually talks about to Tama's iwi, maybe even his whānau, that they got screwed over, and there was a dam that was built and it killed the bird life and fish life and all the, and he said, well, the difference now is there are these different expectations, and there's an expectation that they will consult iwi, and there's an expectation and our expectation is now, but there's nothing, that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because to be honest, expectations don't mean shit unless they're put into process. Chewie, we have expectations that often never get fulfilled. Like, what I'd like to hear is there is a requirement to consult. There is a requirement to get this group that are going to be impacted from fast tracking. There is a requirement to get them on board and agree. There's an expectation you will consult with iwi. Means fuck all. It means I emailed them. Literally, I consulted. I emailed. That was the expectation. So we have to be really careful with the language that they're using. When, again, harken back to Monday afternoon when we were talking on this panel, I talked about the thing with the history syllabus is what this government is talking about is quote unquote bringing balance. What they're meaning is getting rid of a whole bunch of treaty stuff is bringing balance. So this government uses words and phrases that sound, everyone's equal, that sound on a singular level one conversation as safe. And yes, we all want everyone to be equal, but then how they put that into practice is the danger. So in this instance, our expectations is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and that's a word that he's used a lot. I feel like I kind of need to play some of that other one now. Maybe at the end, if we've got time, I'll go back and play it. That they're using those words a lot, and they feel like we talked about this before the election. It's the shell game, Chewie. And we're actually seeing the shell game in action now, because they're saying expectations. Fast track's gone through. Maori aren't happy. Yeah, but we did consult them. That was the expectation. So I'm just putting it out there. These are the things we need to keep an eye out for. This first clip, though, Chewie, we're going to play is he was kind of challenged about a statement he made to do with fast tracking. And I guess it literally means, for example, fast tracking of infrastructure through a native area, through flora and fauna. And he actively said, I believe, we can't be expected to save all species. So this government is actively putting out there that their infrastructure, what they're going to build and do and mine is likely going to kill off some of New Zealand's native flora and fauna, be it regionally or altogether. Have a listen to the conversation between Mihi and him about that.
Still a little bit on the fast track. Recently, in a response to the fast track, you said saving every species.
Marae hapu iwi. There's a lot of.
Oh, sorry guys, that just jumped by itself. I'll have to go and load up the other one as well. This is this little interlude that you live guys are the only ones that get. This won't be in the clip tomorrow.
This is a BTS.
This is just for you guys. We'll start it again.
Still a little bit on the fast track. Recently, in a response to the fast track, you said saving every species was aspirational and couldn't be achieved. Your statement upset many.
Yeah, just to start off with, couldn't be achieved. So it's not going to happen. Every species is not going to be saved, Chewie. Now, this has got 2 or 3 minutes to play, but that one sentence, if you want to comment on it now, you're more than welcome to.
I just want to say it was impossible, or thought to be impossible, to bring back the kakapo. And we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's short term. Short-term thinking.
But do we really want to be put into a position of having to fight to bring back a dying species because they can't guarantee that they'll save every species? Look, we'll keep going though.
When is aspirational being throwaway of like, we can't do it?
Yeah.
It's aspirational.
Yep. All right, here we go.
Particularly environmentalists. What was your statement based on? Why can't we attempt to save every species?
No, I think that the Department of Conservation and actually a lot of public, private, philanthropic and community entities are doing their very best to save species throughout the country.
It's not the question.
Cuts.
It's not the
Job cuts
question.
and funding cuts.
It's not the question. She asked you why can't we, and you're saying some are.
Certainly know from my own personal experience, being in this role for a few months, seen the diligence and the professionalism of the team at the Department of Conservation to work with others. Great projects around the country like Te Kotahi Tango Te Taio down at Te Taio Aorere or Abel Tasman National Park and Project Maunga down at Taranaki Maunga. You've seen a real enthusiasm to save and move species from a threatened and at-risk space into a persisting space. And we're talking about 4,500 species, a lot of species.
This is a long non-answer. He hasn't answered the question yet. He's saying there are people out there saving species. The question was, you say there's no guarantee we can do this. This is what we want to hear an answer to.
The 80,000 native species that we have in the country that are either threatened or at risk.
So are you committed to saving every species
We're
or not?
committing to doing our very best, and I am too, and I encourage the Department of Conservation to team members, Penny Nelson and others at the Papatawhai, to do their level best to do that. We do operate within fiscal parameters and fiscal responsibility, and certainly the budget that we have at the Department of Conservation, nigh on $700 million.
It's a random word generator.
This not an answer. Are you committed to trying to save? It's not an answer yet.
Total budget to look after 30% of all the land and resources in New Zealand, and in addition to that, some of the marine space. So we are stretched thin.
But it's a decision.
Yeah. Sorry, I think Mihi's going to say it. I won't interrupt you. It's a decision they've made for funding. Sorry.
And in addition to that, some of the marine space. So we are stretched thin.
But it's a decision at the end of the day, and it's a financial decision because you're spending $2.9 billion on tax deductibility for landlords and $3.7 billion a year on tax cuts. You could instead spend $6 billion on saving our unique flora and fauna.
Yeah, I think there are choices that have been made by successive governments over time, and certainly my advocacy.
Your government.
You can't claim that. You've just been given $6.5 billion that you've chosen to cut out of New Zealand. You can't do that.
Sorry,
I'm going to interrupt. This question here. Dude, you wait for the next question. You think this is uncomfortable? You wait and see, my friend.
Within Cabinet and across my colleagues, but particularly with our Manu Putia and Minister Willis, is to make sure that we have the appropriate resources dedicated to what we need to do within the Department of Conservation and across other departments, because it's not just Te Papatawhai that does work in this space, in the environmental space, the Ministry for the Environment, there's Ministry of Primary Industries and others too. But certainly from my perspective, the priority to make sure we know where is high conservation area, what can we do in order to do that, and we go through processes for other areas within the DOC estate that have more commercial incentives, like, for example, the ski fields.
Yeah. Okay, Chewie, what are your thoughts, my friend? I'm going to go just double check that other video.
Fuck was that?
Talk about word salad, eh?
Oh, look, we gave Luxon shit for throwing a Scrabble bag of letters into a ceiling fan. I've now watched a drowning man.
Yeah.
Like, Mihi pushed him into a pool and just watched him. It was cold.
Yeah.
Didn't even throw him a wee lifeline. I think Tama was in the paddling pool. He could have just stood up. That's deeply concerning. Like, New Zealand is a lifeboat for biodiversity. We have things here that are not found anywhere else. Yeah. Shane Jones wants an open pit mine wherever he can fit one, conservation land or not. And again, in the scheme of things that we're talking about, that's short-term possible gain. All of that profit's heading offshore. There's some wages. There was an interview with Shane the other day where he was just going, oh, well, these companies will have to pay PAYE. Really? That's what you're going to talk about, PAYE, when you're talking about the billions of dollars that these mining companies want to extract. Because they've paid hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to get to this point. It's worth it to them. But we're sitting there going, oh, shit, carnivorous land snail. Not sexy as a kiwi. Gone. Cut it. Hector's dolphin. Nah, gone. Don't need it. What was it? Bridges said once that there's plenty of fish in the sea when talking about Hector's dolphin. Just, and look, I saw it. Who said it? This is very, very true. Peter said it. John Key's government had a goal of predator-free New Zealand. This is quite an about-face from Team Blue. Yeah. Absolutely. Because they're all bought. They've all been bought and fucking paid for by the mining companies. And when Tama was going, oh, we're stretched thin, you chose that. You made that choice to slash Department of Conservation funding. You made them cut wages to hit their new budget, cut job roles. You're stretched thin because you stretched them. You made that choice.
Yeah. Mike also says they fucking don't care. They don't understand the diversity of species nowhere in the world, and same time, the breakdown of ecology. I'm fascinated by Tama Potaka because, as people said in the chat, he doesn't look comfortable there. We're about to play you another clip, and whilst not maybe the same bombastic aggression that you might see between a Winston Peters and a Jack Tame, this is one of the most uncomfortable I've ever seen a politician. See, Tama Potaka he speaks fluent te reo, right? He knows his whakapapa, he knows the rules, he knows the customs, he knows all about it. He's about to get challenged by Mihingarangi Forbes about ACT's interpretation of the treaty. And she asks him deadpan, do you agree with ACT's interpretation of the treaty? So you've got these Maori academics and language experts saying one thing. You've got ACT saying another. Maori language academics and experts, do you disagree with all of them and agree with ACT? And this is a sight to behold. This is a sight to behold.
Aotearoa's most esteemed te reo Māori translators have written an open letter to the government.
Yes.
Their concerns are the upcoming Treaty Principles Bill is based on a highly inaccurate translation that breaches international ethical standards of translations and risks enshrining fiction as legal fact at the heart of our nation's constitutional arrangements.
Damn.
So as a graduate of Panikiritanga, you will have some expertise in this area. Is it not critical when making good law that specialist experts are used to translate, particularly a document so important as Te Tiriti?
Yes, the first thing, e tautoko ana o kōrero he taonga hoki tō tātou reo. Ki au nei he tuā papa mō Aotearoa New Tirini, iwi hapu whānau, e ka kaha tautoko au te kōrero I tō tātou reo ao pōpō ao. But te mea nei, I'm also a graduate of Whakatupuranga Ruamano in Te Tiro Hoi o Wanganui, alongside Te Panekiratanga and Te Aute College. So,
now, I don't want to interrupt him there, but just remember the question he's being asked is, the question he's going to keep coming back to is, do you agree with what the translation is? That's the heart of this question over and over again.
Do you think that the translation of those three articles is inaccurate?
No, we have entered into coalition commitment, the National Party and the ACT Party, around a treaty principles bill based on ACT policy to be taken forward for first reading and to the select committee. That's where we've said what we've said, that's what we've committed to.
But do you think that the translations are inaccurate as our mātanga reo have stated in the open letter?
I think there are various translations given to
well, there's
the
three.
treaty.
There's three, and they're in the bill, and you would have seen them.
I've not seen the bill being presented.
Oh, hang on. Heck, just, anyone's bullshit nerve. I've not seen the bill. Heck, hang on.
They're in the bill, And you would have seen them.
I've not seen the bill being presented yet. No, we know that there's a draft act policy, and I've not seen a bill.
Do you trust the likes of Te Hau Mihiata, Perepi Walker, Tātere McLeod, Stacey Morrison, as our mātanga reo who say that they are highly inaccurate and they are worried that this is going to be a bill that is going to Parliament?
I have seen the letter, and I'm very appreciative of the letter and expressed some very genuine concerns. In addition, the National Party and the ACT Party have an arrangement, the coalition commitment, to take a bill forward.
Yeah, except that you are the Minister of Māori Development. Wouldn't Te Iwi Māori expect you to ensure that our reo is being handled, treated, translated to the utmost quality? I mean, do you even know who translated it?
I'm not aware of who within the ACT Party has been involved in doing this work.
Will you chase that up? Is that important to you?
This is very important to me.
So
it's
will you chase it up?
Important. It's very important to me to ensure that we follow through on our coalition commitments, but we also follow through on some of the concerns, genuine concerns and legitimate concerns that our mātanga reo have raised.
If you don't find, if it continues to stay the same, those translations that our mātanga reo say are highly inaccurate, will you still support the first reading of that bill?
Oh, we are bound by coalition commitments.
But you're a Reo Māori speaker,
yes,
and you're a kaitiaki of the reo. Surely you would not support something where you know it's inaccurate.
Well, my understanding,
Jesus, that's hitting him like a punch,
is that we will follow the coalition commitment. Now, I know there's genuine concerns, and those concerns have been and will be continued to be raised in that process.
Will you take a look at the reo?
I will continue to raise the genuine concerns of constituents and mātanga reo, such as those people who have conveyed that letter.
So you will take a look?
I'll take those issues forward.
Yeah, and will that be something?
There you go.
Right.
Now, you know that when we watch these clips, we often jump in and out and kind of expand and kind of angle, but it's like, Mihi needs no help. Mihi needs no help. That was... I mean, I don't have the cultural reference to what that is. Chewie, maybe for you, and I know how much you sort of honour and admire Anzac Day. If you had a belief about that was passionate to you, but then you started getting paid in a job where you had to reject that, how would you do that? How could you do that? I mean, we think about our own personal families. If we had a love for our partner or our mum or our dad, and we had to take a job and get paid, that would lead us to having to say or speak or do or accept my workplace doing something contrary to what my family needed or wanted or believed. And, you know, I don't mean to, I'm not judging Tama, I'm just thinking as the bigger picture. How long can we take that paycheck whilst we're shitting on our family, whilst you're shitting on, you know, the honour you want to give to Anzac Day or whatever it is? How does that look? And that is what it looks like, what we just saw, when you get confronted with a political party and worldview, basically getting asked, the people in our space who we respect more than anybody else, who we look to when we need clarification on the issue of Te Reo Māori, are saying something opposite to what ACT is saying. How do you do that? And obviously, as you heard and saw, stumbling, bumbling, incapable of probably saying what he believes. That's the other thing. He is hamstrung by this party he's in, which then makes me think bigger picture. What the fuck is he doing? Who is he going to be a national to them?
You've been very generous not to judge him. I think there's a whole lot of people judging him right now. But I'm not one of them, because all of us, hand on heart, we've left our keys at home, or we've left our phone at home, or maybe we forgot our lunch when we went to work. This is the first time I've seen a man leave his spine at home. Like, just the whole thing is sitting on the bench at home. I think you've nailed it there, Pat. Like, this is a man who has put years of his life into treaty issues and studying te reo and all of that sort of thing. It's clearly important to him. And he can't find something that ACT has been quite happy to do and go, agree to disagree.
Yeah,
we
true.
agree to disagree on this.
True.
He could have done that.
Yep, true.
And you know, with everything that I agree, I don't agree with Act's interpretation, but National has undertaken to take this bill to the first reading, and that's what we'll do. But I personally disagree with this. I don't think that is such a hard bridge to cross. I wonder, is this something that would put a man, you go home, you sit down in a chair, and you go, oh, fuck, I hate this.
Yeah, then what?
How long can you put up with it?
Yeah.
Like, is he, I don't know him that well. I haven't been following his career closely or that sort of thing. Is this a man that has, the mana to go, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. This is too important to me. Or is he someone that is more malleable than that?
Mm.
But I think, very much past being on the left of or right of a Western style of government, as a Maori who clearly cares about this stuff. I think if he didn't care, he would have been able to breeze through that interview.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Like there's a
just lie. He could lie. If he didn't care, he could just lie and just be like, whatever, don't care.
Yep. And I think there was a line of questioning there from Mihi that was just hitting him like hammer blows. You could see it in his face. He's not good at concealing his emotions in his face.
You mean like
which
this?
is something that I admire,
like that
in
moment.
a politician. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's literally taking it on the chin at that point. Yeah, I wonder what that does to someone.
Mm. Yeah. And look, me and Chewie, you already talked a bit about Monday and how much we saw how that kind of foundation of the Māori culture is it really is everything. It's like, and I'm speaking from ignorance here, so forgive me if I'm a bit clunky, but that the way that Māori communicate and live and pass on knowledge and speak and teach, and it's not that they're putting on a show for others, it's that they're training themselves to do. And Tama's grown up in that, and now being told, these guys that we, guys and girls, guys being a plural, respect and look to for the answers all the time. That you're supporting the assholes that are saying they're wrong. How do you feel about that? Yeah, dagger, man, absolute dagger. So,
and look, very similar to what I said elsewhere in the show. Maybe we're two dickheads that have got it completely wrong. Tama, welcome on the show. Come and tell us. Come and tell us where we're wrong, or maybe tell us that we're right.
Before we head off, I will, because I've talked so much about that one, I should have just played it because it's only 2 minutes long. I want to play you a little bit here from the fast track conversation. The only reason I want to play you this is to hear this idea about expectations. Expectations doing a lot of the heavy lifting as opposed to saying there's requirements. I probably won't play the whole lot. I'll just give you an example of what they're doing.
Let me get this right. You're saying that the balancing act is that you will be involved and the Minister for Conservation and Infrastructure will also be involved.
So this is fast tracking, yeah.
But that's really in lieu of the public being involved, isn't it? Because under this proposed bill, there is no public consultation or councils or regional councils having their involvement, and that's really what the concern of Māori is that ultimately at the end of the day 3 ministers get to decide. Is that rangatiratanga?
Well, the first thing is that rangatiratanga doesn't come out of a piece of legislation. Rangatiratanga predates.
Rangatiratanga comes out of the treaty, and the treaty promises Māori in their rohe to have rangatiratanga over their whenua and their taonga katoa. So my question is, this process, the fast track, is that rangatiratanga for Māori?
No. What I'd start with saying is that rangatiratanga is affirmed by the treaty. It doesn't come out of the treaty, and those things predate the treaty, and that notion of rangatiratanga, mana motuhake and other things predates the treaty. And the treaty and other documents have affirmed it. The second thing is that you take someone who wants to go through an application through the fast track process as it's currently drafted, the expectation is that they will go out and engage with iwi and with other Māori groups who are involved in the area or the piece of land or the resource.
But if they don't,
proposed to be the subject.
3 ministers can just go, sweet as.
So right from the get-go, the expectation and it's announced very well through the proposed legislation, is that there will be engagement on the ground between any proposed applicant and whānau hapu iwi who occupy that area or who are part of that area.
What might that look like? What might that look like? A mining company that wants to come in and quarry somebody's tupuna maunga. What are the rules around having to engage with iwi?
I think the bill observes that or requires that there'd be some engagement. People, and not just an email, but people will go and talk. Proposed applicants will go and talk with the relevant iwi and hapu who are from that location to identify what the
knocked on their
content
door,
of the
but no one
proposed
was
application
home.
happens to be. Now, I think that there are a number of areas through the legislation there's been some significant concern that's been expressed. For example, 3 ministers making decisions, but I think we've also seen the Manu Pihopa Minister Chris Bishop has also observed along the way that maybe that's something that can be looked into, come out of the select committee process, and there'll be decisions made as to how the decision making actually takes place, and there might be other options for that.
So there you go. That was basically the clip anyway. And look, the truth is, you heard the word expectation, I think 3 times there, and you heard them talking about the way it's supposed to be done but none of that was like, this is how it has to work, and they need to get these people on board. So I just wanted to show you a bit about the expectations. And through the whole interview, you saw 2 minutes there of a 26-minute interview, that word expectation. I don't know. It feels like it was mentioned 20 times, maybe 10, but it was mentioned a lot, Chewie.
Yeah, there's an expectation or a requirement for them to consult with Māori over these issues. Yeah, but at the end of the day, if they don't, that can be waved away by 3 ministers that say yes or no.
Yeah.
That is a massive overreach, a massive amount of power consolidated down to just 3 ministers. The fast track bill is a horrible piece of legislation. It's mad. I want to make a more positive comment here. Mehe's interview style is amazing.
Yeah,
it's so calm. It's so disarming, and it lets people out there in the open with no cover. It's a very different interview style than we see from a lot of interviewers.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
Yeah, and then other than that, there's a couple of other little things I want to talk about. I realise I've talked a bit about Piers Morgan over the last few while, but the more and more I'm sort of watching him, he's popping up on my feed, the more I'm kind of, he's bizarre. It's a bizarre situation that he gets on these people to have like a panel conversation. But like I put up that the thing the other day, I don't know if we did it on the show or I did it on Twitter, where like a 23-year-old basketball analyst who's voted in one election was talking about, in my lifetime, this is the most serious election there's ever been. She's a 23-year-old basketball analyst who's voted in one election, and she's giving us her lifetime experience, whilst there's like 60-year-old men off to her left panel who have been talking politics for 40 years, but she's giving us her lifetime experience of voting in elections after voting in one. So it's a strange thing. He's probably trying to do almost what all of us in sort of independent news are doing, because you do see people talking on his show who are podcasters and independent news people. So you see people not coming from the CNN studio to there. It's from their setup like this, which is kind of cool, but it's also very commercial. And I don't know, there's a strange mix in podcasting and the kind of thing that we're doing. And then to put that into a $1 million product and try and make it feel like it's supposed to, yeah. Anyway, sorry. He accidentally asked on a very, very good guest. It was a mistake, because whilst he tries to put himself out there as I'm just a journalist, his framing is always pro-Trump. His framing is always pro-Israel, no matter what he says. And he got Brian Tyler Cohen on, who we've had on the show clips a few times before. And yeah, doesn't go well. And I've got a little mashup of his to show you as well. I've talked a lot there, Chewie. Is there anything else you want to throw out there? Anything you want to
I think you covered everything and all things all at once. Look, it's not a story that we're going to talk about tonight. Thanks for that, Pat. It's not a story that we're going to talk about tonight, but I am going to urge. I dropped this in Discord earlier tonight. It is a fantastic read, and I encourage people to go and it's a reasonably long article, but I encourage people to go and find it. It's this one on the Herald. And it is the result of the much reviled Public Interest Journalism Fund. But it's a story of a farm up north that has a historic past site on that was taken from Hapu because of $221 of unpaid rates back in the 60s.
Wow.
And sold to farmers. And just the story of the land, the story of the people, and the story about how it was returned to the Hapu.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal read. And you'll know that one of the things that I always bang on about is, geez, it'd be great to have some context around the story.
Yeah.
I have not seen an article with more context given of the history of everyone involved and how this happened and how it's ended up where it is today and what it means. It is just a phenomenal read. Go and hunt it out. I urge you all.
Cool. Sounds exciting. Seeing you've mentioned a little story, yours is incredibly interesting and serious. Mine's a bit more lighthearted and good news. Living in Taupō is a young couple. I think they're 19 years old each. 19-year-old couple who have worked at Pack and Save and saved up $140,000, and they've just bought a $750,000 house with lakeshore views. How cool is that?
Oh, it's pretty cool, Pat. But do you know what I always do when I see these stories?
What's that?
You look for the hook.
Right.
What's the hook? Where's the privilege? The privilege is always buried. The fact that their dad is a big mover and shaker at foodstuffs. It's right at the end of the article.
He also,
I mean,
he's also as a property
from them.
He also is a property investor. He said that they say in the article I watched it that he owns several of his own houses. But
and they live with their parents for $100 board a week. Like, good on them. They have saved a phenomenal amount of money.
140 grand. That was their
but
deposit.
you can't do that without some serious help.
Yeah, and also we don't know how much of that 140 grand is a gift from a parent or whatever as well. But still, you know, we always talk about the other side of it. We always talk about the no one can get into housing, no one can do it, no first home. You know, yes, I agree with you. Chewie, look, the reason I own a house today is my dad had the capacity to lend me $35,000 for a deposit for the first house, which we paid him back, but then that appreciated to the next one, that appreciated. Without that, to be really fair, I'd probably still be renting. So I acknowledge that's happened with me and it's probably happened with them as well, but it's still good to look at them and go, now they've got to work hard to keep it. And yeah, they seem like they're savers, and 19-year-old couple going for it. Kudos. I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to have a look at also another story about Oranga Tamariki today and the Abuse and Care Commission or inquiry, because we're being told that more children are being uplifted by Oranga Tamariki today than almost ever before. It's kind of a strange thing when we talk about abuse and care, what used to be. But if the system's not sorted out now and more kids are getting uplifted as we speak, then that's a concern as well. We'll do that second, because if Harry's due to be to us 9:30ish, then that might lead up into then having a talk to him about it. So what we will do to start off with, Chewie, is let's do this conversation around Mr. Piers Morgan and his show. Mm-hmm. So Piers had a couple of guests on. They had... what's her name? Nazi Barbie? Probably not fair to call her that. But she is, I keep forgetting her name. What is her name? I can't remember. It'll say it as it's going through. Oh, there we go. Tommy Lahren, who is,
it's been a while since I've heard from her.
Yeah. She used to be the Fox News darling, and then she mentioned some kind of comments about, you know, abortion, it should be a woman's right. And then all of a sudden she was deleted from the conservative talk, I think. But what I wanted to show you her comments first, because her comments is what the right is doing in America at the moment. The right in America at the moment are losing their mind over Joe Biden not running. And I was watching a podcaster, Florentini, I think her name is, and she said in another one of these conversations, isn't it tough for the opposing baseball team when they put a new pitcher in and they complain because they'd spent all their time prepping for a right-handed pitcher and then they put a left-handed pitcher in and all their plans go out the window. And of course, none of this matters because no one is the nominee until after the convention. So it doesn't matter what they were preparing for, and they're all saying is wrong. And impeachment articles have been pulled up against Kamala Harris and all sorts of things. But I wanted to play hers first, just to show you, it's not very long, hers only about 60 seconds. This is what the right's doing at the moment. I don't know how they think it is a winning formula, but they're basically screaming, that's not fair, Joe Biden should be running. That's pretty much all they've got at the moment.
But we're expecting to hear from the current president tonight. I hope that he'll clear some of this up. But if, in fact, he does speak tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern and he tells us that he dropped out simply because he thought he was going to lose, well, that's, again, another notch on the belt for the party that believes in democracy and they want to...
So apparently it's undemocratic to put a better candidate in. So if he's only going to drop out because he thought he was losing, that's apparently, according to Tommy Laren, undemocratic. Not sure how she gets there. She does say the words, though, Chewie, which means something.
Well, that's, again, another notch on the belt for the party that believes in democracy and they want to uphold it at all costs. I mean, dropping out 100 days before a general election because you're losing doesn't exactly scream democracy to me, Piers. But I'll
It means you don't understand democracy, love. Sorry.
tell you this, he owes the American people a lot of answers. Vice President Kamala Harris owes the people a lot of answers. What did she know? She apparently has little lunchy lunches with Joe Biden often. She's obviously seen the cognitive slippage. So we need to hear from her too. And we can't just move on. I know that Democrats want to just move on to 100 days of...
She's literally saying Republicans will not move on past Biden dropping out. We will not move on. She's literally saying it.
And we can't just move on. I know that Democrats want to just move on to 100 days of Operation Coconut Tree Brat Kamala, but we still have a lot of questions and we deserve answers. They subverted the entire primary process. They should be in the hot seat for that, Piers.
So this is what the right's doing. The right want to spend time debating how dare Joe Biden drop out, and now Kamala Harris, the presumptive nominee, is spending her time smashing Donald Trump. And here's the other thing. I always thought if I was ever on a panel like this in this situation, sometimes you see yourself there, you could just simply go, you guys are correct, right? Joe Biden was forced out. Heavy hands were laid and Joe Biden was pushed out the door. And what's your point? You think you're going to win on Joe Biden shouldn't be there. I mean, Kamala Harris shouldn't be there. Joe Biden should be. Because even if what you're saying is completely correct, you've now got to focus on Kamala Harris. And for some reason you can't. And Chewie, there might be some reasons around that.
I think that the most devastating revelation there is that the vice president has lunches with the president.
Lunchy lunches. Apparently they're lunchy lunches.
I can see why that's so absolutely devastating to the Republicans' case.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. I've seen this comment. I've even seen, a friend of mine on Facebook who's in the States. He kind of floated up something similar, sort of going, well, I don't agree that this is the democratic process. And it's like, dude, this is how you get Trump. Like, you don't have to, is she better than Trump? That's what the contest is.
Yeah.
And if you want to give away some of the Democratic time to put a better candidate forward, put a better argument than Trump is, and you want them to tear at each other for a couple of weeks while a bunch of candidates fight for it this close to the election, well, yeah, sure. But that's how you end up with Trump.
Yeah. And just remember, when people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. If they were like, I'm so glad Joe Biden dropped out because now it's going to be an easier path to a Trump victory, they wouldn't be complaining. Like, why are they complaining? What are they actually saying? They're trying to find any reason to put forward an argument that shouldn't be Harris. That's it. Why not? Because they know Harris is a harder beat, even with all the, the positive vibes from the world that Donald Trump's got recently with the assassination attempt, even with all of that going for him, that Kamala Harris is a much harder beat. And so they're looking for a way. I don't know who they're selling this to because it's only their base that's going to buy into this.
Just before we carry on.
Yep.
There's a couple of people watching that are trying very, very hard to get through the auto moderator.
Okay.
And can I just give them a wee tip? Calling the two of us spastics probably isn't going to go through.
Probably not.
nor is calling every left voter with a rotten brain not going to work. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to scream at your TV otherwise. But if you want to debate, maybe bring something a little bit better.
Or get on Discord, and we'll
just
talk
saying.
to you shortly. Look, okay. Okay, perfect way that you always introduce these unwittingly to get into the conversation as it went on to part 2 with Brian Tyler Cohen. Now, it's like the right's going culture wars, unfair, culture wars, unfair. And the left at the moment is going fact. And it gets exactly what he does here to Piers Morgan.
Brian, it seems to be a question of unity. One trick that Kamala Harris missed in her speech, it was not a bad speech at all. But one thing she didn't do, she didn't allude to the assassination attempt on Trump. And it's only been 9 days since someone tried to murder Donald Trump and actually shot him in the ear, killing him by 1/4 of an inch. Would it not have been a smart move in between calling him, a sexual predator and a con man and a fake and blah, 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 very ad hominem stuff? Would it not have been a smart move in terms of unity had she just taken a moment to acknowledge the assassination attempt and say how pleased she was that he survived it? Something of that nature.
Piers, I find it so bizarre that the onus is always on the Democrats, it's always on the adults in the room to create unity. Where was everybody for the last 6 years calling for unity when Donald Trump was president? And, as far as the violence is concerned, I feel like any effort to try to pin, again, the onus on Democrats in terms of lowering the temperature in this country is just a testament to the fact that the Republicans are graded on the curve. Remember, it was not the Democrats, while we're talking about political violence, it wasn't the Democrats who laughed at Paul Pelosi being bludgeoned with a hammer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for military tribunals for Liz Cheney. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who laughed at a kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for General Mark Milley to be executed. That was Donald Trump.
When you look at Tommy Laren's picture there, all I can imagine inside her brain is that's all I can imagine, all I can see.
Wasn't Democrats who posted a baseball bat photo with Alvin Bragg and threatened death and destruction if he was charged. So in all of these examples, Piers, it is not the Democrats who've done this. It's not the Democrats who've validated the use of political violence as a tool in this country, and it shouldn't be on the Democrats all of a sudden to be the adults in the room.
All right, Brian, to a point, Lord Copper, as we would say in the UK, right? It is the Democrats who for 8 years have screamed that he's Adolf Hitler. That's fairly violent rhetoric.
It's actually not true. We showed this. It's not true. Mostly this is coming from podcasters, comedians, and announcers are likening him and his actions and the words he's saying to things that Hitler said. Right, that's mostly what it is. Whereas on the right, it's all the Republican lawmakers, all the governors and senators who are calling people on the left groomers and pedophiles and stuff. So this is a line from Morgan that comes out several times, and it's infinitely inaccurate.
You're comparing him directly
to
an absolute genocidal maniac who murdered 12 million people, including 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So when you do that is violent rhetoric.
Piers, if Donald Trump acts like a fascist, it is not the Democrats' fault for calling him a fascist.
You're saying he is?
That is his behavior.
He is Hitler?
No, absolutely not. But I'm saying he does act like a fascist. He does want to consolidate power in the executive branch. He does want to send the military into American cities. He does want to.
You have no problem comparing him to Adolf Hitler.
Just doesn't listen.
I am calling him a fascist. That's what I'm doing.
So he just doesn't listen. And what can you say? And yes, I saw someone there say MAGA Barbie's looking well pissed. When you accidentally get the wrong guest on, and he's done it several times, that's what comes of it. I want to show you one other thing, Chewie. I made this today. I made it because it's got our branding on it. This is a compilation from 2 shows of Piers Morgan. It's the one, whatever his time is, the one that was yesterday's and the day before. See if you can hear. It's quite subtle. See if you can hear over these 2 shows and just watch how many times this imagery comes up. I think it's 4. Who he's trying to get the attention of and where he's trying to get clout from. You ready?
Okay, Vinny Ashana, Donald Trump rang me on Saturday night. I just got to New York. I did a hit on Fox News. He was watching it. But they still didn't do anything. And they allowed the president to walk out. I spoke to Trump on Saturday, and I mean, I spoke to him on Saturday night. But when I spoke to him, he was, I got to say, icily confident. You know, he was very candid about that when I spoke to him on the phone. You know, I spoke to Donald Trump on Saturday night after he appeared at the comeback rally after the assassination attempt. But as he said to me on the phone on Saturday night when we spoke, in terms of his campaign, obviously, and he said this to me on Saturday.
I know it was subtle, it was hard to pick up on, but did you kind of get that it seems that perhaps Piers Morgan is trying to attract a particular base to think he's sort of cool because he's not an unbiased journalist in the middle. He sets and frame things always to benefit the GOP and on the other arguments to benefit the Republicans. That was 2 shows. How many times he said it? And if you notice the screen that had Cenk Uygur in it, I think he said it 4 times in that conversation that he spoke to Donald Trump on Saturday night. Do you get the vibe? Is it like, do you see what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what ear he held the phone to, by the way.
Yeah. So poor old Piers Morgan, it's almost like he's trying to make independent news, but he's doing it with a very large budget. And I know it sounds weird to say, but it doesn't seem to really work. You know, it's like it got all these people swearing and yelling and making like podcasters do, and then you've got the BBC, proper BBC kind of, you know, not these BBC, but you know what I mean, voice trying to pull it all together. It's like putting I don't know, Lord Sumption into the circus ring and trying to corral all the lions. It just doesn't work. Doesn't work. Hey, kia ora again. Welcome back, whānau. Thanks for watching the best of. Remember, live shows start again Monday the 13th. As another reminder as well, the merch store is currently open. Like I said earlier, we're probably going to have to take the store down after I head off on honeymoon, just because there'll be no one to service it. So get in there now if you want to get your especially your buffer merch before Waitangi Day. That is, of course, bhnshop.nz. But speaking of shop, speaking of merch, speaking of money, huge thanks to all of our patrons. In the last 7 days, a big thanks to George Terry, to Christian, to Rocket Rihari, to Mark White, to Joey Parr, and to Ruth O'Grady. Ruth O'Grady, top of the morning to you, who have all become patrons, and also Rebecca Hawkins. We won't miss you out, Rebecca. Rebecca Hawkins also in the last 7 days. Also a big shout out to Rachel Hannon. Rachel Hannon's been a patron for a wee while, but upped their patronage, changed levels. 2025 is going to be a different year for patrons. We are going to service you guys better. I understand up until this point you've mostly just been wanting to support us with a few bucks here and there, but we are going to be looking at providing more content for patrons alone, because you guys are the guys who keep this thing going day to day. Merch is great, but the patrons are the guys who help us out day to day. Thanks for joining us again tonight. We will see you tomorrow night, unless this plays on Friday. Then you'll see a live show on Monday for another best of for the other ones. And stay safe. We'll see you super soon. Hooroo.
Settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the